You need to diversify your bonds, nigga.
Today we're sponsored by it's such a hot topic.
The NorCal bonobos. It's not good.
Little known fact, guys, we're kind of a big deal.
They're sponsoring us, yeah. Wait, no, shut up. This is too good of a conversation.
Diversify your bonds.
What's good, sponsors? Welcome to the PDSU Radio. This is the podcast where we ask questions, laugh, chill, and talk about the journey that is being the small content creator. My name is Ordeed. In here we got Angelo, the certified dad bod himself. We got Uncle Miggs, and we have our special guest today. This is Niko. He creates games. He is a cool dude, certified cool bro. Before we get started, we need to have our sponsor. So here that will be. Hi there. My name's so-and-so from Chick-fil-A, telling you to come on down to Chick-fil-A, except on Sundays. We got good old fried chicken, all the best, except on Sundays. We make sure to keep everyone that comes into our stores happy and satisfied from our succulent, delicious, and moist chicken, except on Sundays. And we're also better than the other brands like Popeyes and KFC. They ain't got shit on us, except on Sundays. You know, they're better than us on Sundays, but not the other days of the week, because we're open 24/7, 7 days a week, except on Sundays. So come on down to Chick-fil-A and fucks with our chicken, except on Sundays. Don't come on Sundays. We won't let you in. All right, and now that we got all the corporate obligations out of the way, let's get to the conversation.
All right, Niko, it's good to have you on and be able to talk about the games you've made thus far. We heard about you from JMO, who was on a previous podcast, and we want to know what you do, because we've heard some fun things about dabbing, Double Deluxe,
of course.
Dab Double Deluxe, Dab Triple Deluxe.
Triple Deluxe.
Yeah, and everything in between. We want to talk about all that today. So thank you for stopping on by.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Niko.
Well, I'm a third-year transfer student at UC Santa Cruz. I'm in the comp sci game design major. Kind of regret it a little bit. I've been joking about it. No, I've been thinking about switching like a lot, like the last year, but I think I'm gonna stick with this. But yeah, I make video games. I don't know. Like, my life's not that exciting. I just make video games. Like, what do you tell people that, like, this point? Like, you know what I mean? You kind of sit there and you're like, oh, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I make video games. And you're like, oh, cool.
Dude, well, I mean, that is cool. You don't see or talk to people every day that make video games and do things that are actually, like, super interesting like that.
Honestly, it's super rare to find someone that like works in an interactive medium like that in the first place. Like, it's honestly a very niche thing, but like so many people love playing video games. Freaking people have been making apps forever. It's like people are always interested. Trust me, my guy. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, so actually, I've been playing the shit out of that Dab Double Deluxe game when I'm supposed to be at work. I hope nobody from my job is listening to this.
No, you should just show everybody. At work. They're like, hey, look at this cool game I found. It's like, wow, I can get like some money off ad revenue now.
Upgrades, people. We need upgrades.
Yeah, I'll finally get my like 1 penny from ad revenue.
There we go. That networking money.
Explain us first, like, I guess, what is Dab and Double Deluxe and Triple Deluxe? What do you do in the game?
No, it's simple. You
how do
dab.
you win?
It's pretty much like an endless game. You just hold space to dab when like the teacher isn't looking, and that's it. And you get points for dabbing. I thought it was funny. I still think it is funny. I think it's great. Trying to find it like the most recent screenshot. I have no idea.
When the game, because I've played it, and you're basically this dude that dabs whenever the teachers are looking, then you dab by basically just pressing down your thumb or spacebar. Does the game get progressively harder the longer it goes? Because I would just like lose randomly, but I wasn't sure like if it was programmed that I had to like be quicker on my dabs, or if it like gets harder as the game goes on.
Nope. I was like trying to figure out how to like make the game work. So like honestly, difficulty was like so out of the question. Like it worked.
It's a concentration game because at some point you will break. you
just
will
gotta,
dab at the wrong
you'll
time.
lose the will to dab further, and it's like that's on you. I feel like the loss is on you at that point. Dab Double Deluxe was a game I made for the One Button Game Jam in like shit, was it 2016? I think I just made it fun because I was like, oh, you know, this is a funny joke, and they had like an old woman spinning in the background. I thought it was great, but I ended up porting it over to Dab Triple Deluxe on Unity. Anyways, so like we fast forward 3 years now. We're in 4 years. Fuck, shit, damn, that was a long time ago. That was like the start of my senior year in high school. Yeah, so we're fast forward like 4 years now, and I'm like, all right, time to do. Like our professor's like, hey, you can just do whatever you want for this project, and I was like, I'm gonna remake Dab Triple Deluxe. So that was our project. It was just like, now that I actually know how to program, I'm like, I could probably mess with this. I can probably like add in like actual effects and everything, and like honestly, it kind of came out really well, despite how like awful it looks. I kind of like it. It's great. We had a deep fry filter. That was my favorite part about it. Is just making the game look awful and just showing it to people.
Remix.
It's the best. They're like, what the fuck am I looking at? And I'm like, it's amazing. This is the art. Here's the most updated screenshot with the filters. This is how the game looks like when you're dabbing.
Yo, there we go.
It's pretty great.
So what I'm looking at here is like this super deep fried image with a bunch of colors, and you're telling me that like you're gonna upgrade the game to basically have this in it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty great.
Dude, so that's the first game you made?
I think about like second. Yeah, the first game I made was a game called Meme Hunter. It was just for like class. Like the meme, there's no meme to it. It's just like a game where you like resize yourself, and like it's a small platformer with like 3 levels. And I was like, this is pretty great. And that's when I kind of figured out like I kind of want to do this like forever. Or maybe not forever. Maybe I'll take a break. I've joked about like my friends are like, I'm just gonna open a fucking bakery when I'm like older and have money.
Hell yeah.
Like
I'm all about changing life decisions.
It's gonna be like I'm already kind of done with game development. You know, fuck this. I'm trying to open up a bakery.
What made
I
you
say
want?
why not both?
That's true.
What made you want to make that game in the first place?
It was just a school project. Like, wait, Dab or like Meme Hunter?
Meme Hunter.
Meme Hunter was it was a school project, and I was like, we could just fuck around and mess around. Yeah, that was like the extent of it. I was like, we have to make my teacher was like, do whatever you want, and I was like, all right. And then we made this, and I was like, this is pretty fun. It was very fun. That was like a very first game I've made in like ever. That was the very first thing I've ever done.
Dude, you want to learn about bakery, my dude? I learned I took a couple of bakery classes.
I love baking. I already like I just watch videos to be completely honest, but I love baking. Like baking and cooking is just like amazing. That's what I like focusing on with games now. Like I've been working like the last couple of days on working on like this personal project that's like you run a bakery. I'm like, that's it. That's my retirement. I'm done. It's over. That's my retirement. I'm done.
That sounds to me like if I can't own a bakery, I'm gonna make a game where I can still pretend I'm a baker.
It's like this is it. I'm like after this game, I'm done. I'm retiring. This is like magnum opus. I'm done.
Magnum opus.
Sick.
Is it gonna be like a bakery tycoon type game, or is it just gonna be like I bake in this?
Kind of like like how Cooking Mama was, that kind of stuff. Yeah, just that. You just make orders, and I'm like, that's all I want. That's all I want in life. Like yeah, like the fun of opening like a bakery, but like also not having to deal with like awful customers and like running a business.
Honestly, the fun parts of the bakery without all the everything else.
But like, plus all the horrible things with coding, because now I have to program all of it.
Add that.
Oh god.
So how many games in total have you made?
Oh shit, a lot. Let me see. I'd say like a handful. I know there's that thing where it's like you have to make 10 bad games to make like one good game, and I'm like, oh, I don't think so.
Really? Is that a saying in like the video game like spheres? Do people talk about stuff like that, or?
Yeah, it's just like I think a general thing with like we read a book called The Outlier, or like 1,000. I think it was The Outliers. I forgot who the author was, but I read it in like high school, and it's pretty much saying like you got to pour in a lot of fucking hours, like 10,000 hours. It was called the 10,000 hour rule, where it's like you have to do something for 10,000 hours to be like really good at it. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's see.
That makes sense.
That's all I thought. I was like, yeah, seems like you need to do that kind of thing. In terms of like what I have in my itch, which is missing a couple things. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I have one off itch, so it's like 14. So I don't know, 14 games. That's not bad. I think that's a good number.
That's a good
I don't know
number.
about the good game thing though. I should have made a good game 4 games ago, but
Hey, man,
it's somewhere.
it's all statistics, okay? Like every 10, like it'll your games I'm sure are fantastic. Like, I'm hearing stories about an elevator pitch game that you and some people are working on. Tell us about that. I heard you're real proud of that one.
Oh yeah, elevator pitch is so I am in the game development club at Santa Cruz. Amazing group of people. I love them so much. I'm a design officer now because I was like, I love you guys, and I kind of want to like continue on with this, but different thing. But so in fall quarter of this year, last year, I guess. Well, technically this school year, last school year, we just got off. It was a week ago. We just finished. But anyways, we had this whole club is based around like you have to pitch a game, then like everyone in the club votes on what game they want to work on. They vote on 2. So like whatever game gets like picked, they like end up working on it for like 6 months, which is like the next 2 quarters. And then I went up to my friends and I was like, I want to make WarioWare. that was my whole thing. Is I was like, I want to make WarioWare, and I want it to be 4 people instead of just 1. And then they're like, okay, that sounds sick. And then like a lot of like we've been getting feedback and stuff like with the officers, and they're like, your scope seems a little too big. Like we feel that like 10 mini games is too much. And I was like, let me rephrase that. So I changed it to be like two templates. So I pretty much made this like modular game development kind of thing where it's like we have templates that you can just fuck around with and just use that as use that to make games or mini games for the game, and then just put them in like the files and you're good. And you know what? We ended up with about 10 variations of. We ended up with like 4 minigame types and then like a couple variations of each of them. So that's about 10. Seems good enough. So we did hit our goal, original goal at least.
Did it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and then now our game's out. I'm not sure if we're gonna work on it over the summer. I know I've had some people like go like, I am interested in working on this. The other game, Buds, which is because again, there's 2 games that are being worked on. Buds was like has a bunch of people like wanting to work on it, which is completely fine. I want to move on to like a personal project because it's kind of important to me, and I want to like make it. So that was a bakery game. So I want to work on that over the summer instead of continuing on elevator pitch. But like with how modular the game is, it'll actually be pretty good to just pick up and like continue because that's how I set it up. Now that like the basic framework is done, all we just really have to do is just like make more mini games. That's all we can.
Okay.
So it sounds to me like the game is easily able to get picked up later on if you want to work on it, but for now you want to work on another personal project.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's I mean, I played the game and I couldn't figure out how to get the multiplayer working, but just by myself, it was like I could see it being a really fun party game if you have four people trying to go through the same courses in the game.
Yeah, I was it was like surprising because like especially with making a four-player game during a fucking pandemic. When we had playtests, it was just like everyone was like screaming. It's, like when we had in-person playtests, everyone was like huddled around the computer and just like laughing and just having a great time, which feels really cool. But like also just like with like even when we had like the small parsec runs that we did, it was still really fun and had like the same kind of energy. Granted, with like less people, because obviously not a lot of people are like watching. I think one time we played it in front of like the club with the officers, and everyone was like, "Oh no!" and like screaming. Like you can see like the Zoom chat like light up and just like everyone going like, "Holy shit, what the fuck!" It's fun, especially because you can like push people around. Hint.
Oh, like you can literally move the other characters into the obstacles.
If you want.
Ah,
There we
see, I
go.
need to figure out this multiplayer.
We've been using Parsec to do it, so if you're interested, you can always download Parsec. This isn't a plug from Parsec. This is just became a necessity when it became to, or when it came down to playtesting.
Well, can you
Because,
explain what a parsec is? I'm not even sure what that is.
it's kind of like you can just play like local co-op games online, if that makes sense. So like you can invite people to your computer and just be like, yeah, just connect your controller, and it recognizes it's a separate controller, and it'll
Oh,
stream the game to the other
interesting.
person.
Like you're in their
It's fun.
computer.
Yeah, you could. You
That's
can. You can do
wild.
that. You can turn on like mouse and keyboard, and they can just hijack your computer.
Oh god.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Push your friends into obstacles. Just don't hijack their computers.
Hey, okay, that's a good workaround though. I mean, honestly, if you have to figure out a way to play co-op in one screen.
It was great. But
Dude,
yeah, that's
so like what is the process when it comes to making these games? Because you got like you have the gameplay, and but you also have like the themes and like the ideas on like everything around it, the context around how the gameplay works. So what comes first?
it's very like game dependent, but like most of the time I just like with elevator pitch, it's like I want to make a WarioWare game but with four people. Originally it was supposed to be WarioWare with VR, but then I'm like they can't do VR, so it's just like if it's gonna be a game for like a club, you might as well make it multiplayer. I thought that was fun. I always loved multiplayer games. With like Dab, that came because of like the one button game jam giving me a theme where it's like, hey, your theme is one button, and I'm like, cool, okay, I'm a Dab, and then like that's how Dab came to like fruition. Like with other games, like especially with our major, they're just like, yeah, just do whatever. Like a lot of our like the last couple of games I made are like let's see, with one of our classes this quarter, it was like you have to make an endless runner, and it's like, how do you make an endless runner? Or like what would you think of when it comes to like an endless runner? And I was like, I messaged my group and I was like, I really fucking miss food. Like I really want to get some like Chinese food right now. And then we ended up making dim sum run, which is like an endless runner where you run around like a dim sum table. So that was how we thought of that. So again, it just comes with like sometimes these things just come up in your head and it just happens, and then like that's like the initial like idea phase where it's like, okay, I have this idea of like what I want to do. Um, then the next thing you want to do is start like planning out like what the fuck do you do in this game, which is the hard part. Well, I take that back. That's kind of the easy part because you're like, okay, I understand. Like, I want this person to move and like hit things and dodge, and you can dash, and then like then the hard part is like programming it in. Now you're just like, oh fuck, how the fuck how the fuck do you do this shit? Like what was it with platformers? It was like really weird because I used Game Maker. Um, I was like, oh, it's gonna be so easy. It's like, how do you do collision? I'm like, well, duh. If you touch the floor, then you can't move. And then like it took me a while to be like, oh, when I'm touching the floor, I can't move like at all. Like I can't move left, I can't move right, I can't jump, and I'm like, why is this happening? And it's like because the logic is wrong. It's when you're touching the floor, you shouldn't be able to fall down instead of stop movement completely, or like not when you're like colliding with an object that you can't stop. Otherwise, you'll just get stuck in the floor, and like that's a lot of like the hardest part about like making games is god damn it fucking the programming sucks. I hate it.
So it sounds like the way that you program, like sometimes you're talking about how it's challenging to basically code the logic sometimes because it might work the way you think it does, and then it's different. In practice.
I think that's the big thing is that like you have ideas like, especially like before you start making games, you're like, oh, it's so easy. Why didn't they just do this shit? And then you do that shit, and you're like, oh fuck, it's not easy.
Yeah, programming games and learning all about like the logic that goes into it. It just there's always gonna be problems. That's I think part of game design is having to deal with those problems all the time. Yeah.
That's the fun part is that you learn that like everything you thought was wrong. Like, oh fuck, I can't do this, and like you figure it out. You watch a couple tutorials. That's easy.
Actually, this is just like a bit more of a broad question, but what is your favorite game? Like just out of all of them, and how has that like game influenced your work?
Fuck.
Kind of a big question, sorry.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. Cause like my favorite game like shifts from time to time, obviously, cause things come out and like things age differently and shit. And it's like, oh, I can talk about like what I've like my favorite game at the moment. It's like Warframe.
Yeah. What have you been playing recently?
Yeah, I've been playing Warframe. I've been playing a little bit of Titanfall 2. That fuck man, I'm so sad. Every time I launch up Titanfall 2, I get sad. Because that game pretty much died on release, but it's probably I think it's one of the best shooters that came out ever. Personally.
Wall running and a lot of the mechanics they have in that game are super fun. I think the fact that Titanfall 1 was so booty cheeks is really what killed it on launch, personally.
I thought 1 was pretty good. I thought it could have been refined a little bit better. I think they did in 2. They definitely took a lot of feedback and they were like, okay, and they just fixed the game, and I was like, great. I think a lot of it has to boil down to like releasing between 2 other major releases that already have like established like franchises and like player bases, which is Call of Duty and Battlefield. They kind of shot themselves in the foot there, and I found out recently that they couldn't push back the date at all because they had marketing with Mountain Dew and Buffalo Wild. So they couldn't be like, hold the codes. And the only reason why I know specifically it's Mountain Dew and Buffalo Wild Wings is because I have the Mountain Dew skin for one of the Titans and like the Buffalo Wild Wings decal because I was like so into like Titanfall. And I do not regret it. I never went to Buffalo Wild Wings in my fucking life until they had a Titanfall code, and I was like, I am going.
Buffalo Wild Wings, here we come. I'm not.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what the fuck this is. Then I went and I was like, this is shitty. I would much rather just go to fucking like Wingstop or something. I got so disappointed, but I was like, I do not give a fuck. I have my Titanfall codes and I redeemed it. Now I have a Buffalo Wild Wing skin.
That's actually pretty lit though.
Pretty great. I loved it. It was very okay.
It was very
going. It was pricey. That was it.
I think
But yeah, like we know who to go to for the next sponsor.
Yeah, Buffalo Wild Wings and Mountain Dew.
It sounds like they're sponsoring everybody. Let's jump in on the sponsorship.
Be like, hey, can we get some Titanfall codes? And they're like, what the fuck is that?
While you're at it, make Titanfall 3.
There you go.
Don't even joke about that. They said last year, like, we have Titanfall news coming. There was no fucking Titanfall news. Got so sad.
Rip.
But yeah, with those games, I don't know how they influence me. I just play them. I guess it's like one of the things where it's like I want to make this kind of shit in the future. Is why I like continue on. Like that's one of the things that like I just play these games. I'm like I want to make these eventually. Like if I like I honestly wouldn't mind working at Respawn if I got the opportunity to.
Yeah.
I know they're owned by like EA and shit, and like they have like awful practices. But like from what I've learned from talking to a like Respawn like employee, they're like, yeah, EA doesn't touch us. I was like, oh, cool.
What does that
So-
mean? What did you were saying? Like you've heard of some practices there?
Oh, like the crunch culture and like shit in like AAA studios, especially with like EA, is just awful. I'm like, yeah, that sounds right.
What's the crunch culture? Can you explain that?
It's like when they like force employees to be like, hey, you're gonna be working like 80 hours a week, and it's like, what the fuck? I don't want to do that. Where they like they force you to work like so much in like such a short amount of time to get their games done. And it's like I don't want to do that ever. I do that in school, so I don't want to do.
You gotta work for Hideo Kojima Games, dude.
I might.
Hideo freaking Kojima, dude.
I would. Death Stranding is coming out for PC next month. I'm very excited.
I'm also excited.
I know a lot of people said it was boring, but I kind of am okay with that.
People don't know. People are whack.
I've been talking to my friend about this, but I think I'm just kind of just getting more and more jaded when it comes to like talking about video games. Like the more you learn about it, you're like, shit, I know why people make these decisions now, and it's like I understand. Like I feel like he's kind of right. Like Hideo Kojima is kind of right when it comes to like, I know why people don't like this game, and it's because they like don't get it. And I'm like that. Yeah, I can see, I can understand what he means because it's like when you, especially when you make a game and it's like, hey, I want to have like this kind of game, and it's very niche and very specific. Like I don't know anything about Death Stranding other than I know that you just deliver packages. I'm like that sounds amazing. I want that game, but like it's not a game like traditionally like what he's made, like especially with like how Metal Gear 5 was compared to like 1, 2, and 3. Like you can like tell if you play like I've played every single Metal Gear game and I love it. Well, minus like the some of the spin-offs, but like it's definitely like those games are like one I would say would be like kind of niche, but 5 ends up being like a really broad game where like pretty much anyone can pick up because it's like it's not like I'm gonna make like this kind of hardcore first person or not first person like hardcore like stealth game, and it's like that's not what Death Stranding is. Death Stranding is like, hey, this is a game about like moving around a package, and that's it. And I'm like, that sounds great. That's what I want in life.
Yeah, and like it sparked up like when it was released, it sparked up a whole conversation with all sorts of gaming circles on like what is a video game. Like it was big enough and it like was, I think, important enough to like kind of get that kind of conversation because it's just so out there. So what would you say is a video game? How would you define what a video game is?
I feel like if you say something's a video game, fuck it, yeah, you know.
That's all you need.
Dude,
Yeah,
honestly,
I like legitimately feel that because like especially with like I like coming into the program like knowing this kind of like I was like, you know what, people can make whatever the fuck they want as long as as long as they like enjoy it and as long as they did whatever they wanted to do. And like now like we're in this major and it's like this is, yeah, you see like a bunch of things that people make and they're like, this is a video game. I'm like, that's sick as fuck. Like someone had like this VR, they didn't call it a video game, it's more like an interactive art thing, but they're like, hey, I just made this random ass thing where you like put on a VR headset and it just puts you in these whack ass Unity scenes that just like fuck with you. I'm like, this is so fucking cool. But yeah, it's just kind of like when you have a thing and you're like, this is a video game. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And like, I know like a lot of people are like they shit on games. They're like, oh, it's just narratives. I'm like, fucking who cares? Like shit, just don't play. Like that's the biggest thing is like if you don't like it, just don't fucking play.
Totally agree with you. I think the real issue is that people don't understand video games to be an art medium. They think of it more as just as consumable media that they do just like not think. I think there are video games out there that genuinely are pieces of art and like tell philosophical points and like expand your mind. Like Near Automata asking questions about like what does it mean to be human? Like what does sentience actually entail? Fucking Journey, one of the most gorgeous video games I've ever fucking played in my life. Like I can currently just I have that image of freaking you sand freaking surfing through the desert ruins, like permanently fucking grafted into my brain. Like at any moment, any point of the day, I can perfectly imagine that freaking image. Like variety of things that you can do with video games and the things that, like deep truths that you can actually display with video games, I think is lost on a lot of people. And even if you're not like, hey, I don't want to like make some giant like Game of Thrones narrative or anything, like there's a lot of work that goes into making the video game. Like it's it's an interactive medium that I feel like people don't really interact with in the fullest way that they could. I feel like a lot of people just have that, surface level, I want a controller, I want to shoot shit. That's all I want out of a video game. That's what a video game is. And I think that's very limiting in the public zeitgeist. It really like holds a lot of people back. Like even people who don't play video games, a lot of them think that that's what a video game is because that's what a lot of the bigger like franchises for the most part are, with the exception of maybe like Assassin's Creed. At that point, like actually, correction, I think that people are starting to see more sandboxy sort of gameplay as video games, with fucking Red Dead Redemption, Fallout, and stuff like that. But for the most part, I think that like rail shooters and stuff like that are still seen as like the main thing that video games are.
Yeah, this conversation comes up a lot, especially like in our major. They're like, what do you guys think is a video game? And like, just hearing like, especially a lot of people, I do genuinely think that like a lot of the reason why like people don't want to consider games as art is really holding back the entire like thing, because it's like, I don't want this thing to be like this. I'm like, okay, but you can like still enjoy things. Like you can like, we're still gonna have Call of Duty, we're still gonna have like Battlefield, we're still like, we're still gonna have Siege. I like love Siege like so much. I've been playing the game since the game fucking had its first alpha, and I was like, damn, this was kind of shitty. But then like I when the game came out, I fucking loved it, and I still play it. Or I played Siege, and it's like you can definitely just like enjoy things. I feel like a lot of the things that people say where they're like, oh, why don't people just like make games, and like just why do they like the biggest thing was someone arguing in like one of our classes about how games shouldn't be fun, and like people are really taking it at like face value. They're like, well, why I want my games should be fun all the time, I always want fun games. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what they're trying to fucking say, because it's like there are movies that aren't like always 100% happy or like action. There are movies that aren't like whatever, or like books that aren't fucking like constantly like, oh, this is great. It's like there's some books are just fucking depressing, some movies are just sad as fuck.
Exactly.
So I'm like, and it's like, why don't we just have that? Let's just fucking cry. Make me cry.
Yeah, like it's not wrong to like enjoy those games. Like Siege or anything whatsoever. They're great. It's great. I like playing Siege. It's fun every now and again. But I do think that a lot of the like you're saying, not all movies are going to be all action all the time and stuff like that. There's going to be things that are hard to see. I think a lot of I compare. It's easy for people to understand like visual art because you can just look at it and it's there. But I compare this to like music when I'm discussing music with people and everything, and it works the same with video games because that's another art form. But the when you look at a painting, sometimes it's hard to look at. Sometimes there's images that you do not really wish to see, and it's still art. So there's things that you don't necessarily have to like about a video game while it can still be good. Something like in horror games, I think you experience it a lot. You're afraid, you're on edge, you're like white knuckling the controller, and you're just like, it's very intense. Another game, one of my favorite games, it's Lisa. It's called Lisa, the Painful RPG.
Ooh. Yeah, I've heard of that.
And it's got a fantastic story, but it's very dark with themes of like abuse and some of like the drug use and some of like the saddest. It's a very sad story, and it's a miserable slog of a journey because the game is hard. You walk very slow. It's an RPG. Everything is very slow, and the gameplay itself, it's pretty fun, and the story is really what like drives it over the edge. Is one of my favorites, but it's not always like a very fun game to play. But it's still one of my favorites, and it's still great.
Like the first couple minutes of The Last of Us before you actually start getting into the game, and you're like running away from the zombies, and then you see his daughter die. Like,
yes,
it gets your blood pumping, but there's not a lot of like mechanical shit that you can do other than move forward, run away, and then you see her die, and that's like rough. When you see her like just die in his arms, like, I'll be honest, first time I saw it, I didn't tear up a little bit, but I did get some moisture. Okay, I got a lot of moisture in my eyes. I was like, oh shit, oh no. And I do like that, especially now, video games are moving more and more towards that direction. And I think it's important that we have these conversations in the first place to expedite that transition. Because I feel that if video games don't really embrace that aspect, it's not fully embracing what it can be as a storytelling medium and as an entertainment medium in the first place.
One more question for you, Niko.
Hello.
Who is a content creator that you currently enjoy?
Yeah, I'm gonna plug my friend Riko. He is the other game lead for Elevator Pitch, but he focused on sound because I can't do any of that. He's made a lot of good music, especially like a lot of people in sound, and are like he's a part of GDA, which is the game development club with us, and he was also like the sound lead for Elevator Pitch, and like, oh my god, holy fuck, everyone in that, like, everyone makes good ass music. It's crazy. Like, I was like, yeah, just do whatever the fuck you want for Elevator Pitch. Just make it kind of like fast and like jazz or something. And he helped with like getting everyone together in order to do a lot of stuff. And then he also does music on the side. And he's worked on a couple of games, obviously, because we are in the game design program at UC Santa Cruz.
Nice.
A couple is an understatement. It's more like, make 3 in 1 quarter. That's like 10 weeks. I'm like, what the fuck? That shit out.
All right, so plugging Riko, who does the sound design and has worked on other games with you. Right now.
Actually, one more person that I could plug. My friend Ricky. He's the streamer and also one of the design leads at Elevator Pitch. Let me get his stuff. If maybe he'll be interested. I'm not entirely sure. He streams every so often. He also makes games.
Oh yeah.
That's the running theme, is that we all make video games. What the?
I mean, if you're all in the video game program, I have this feeling that
maybe we all make video
you make
games.
video games.
Well, cool, man. Before we go, where can we find you?
You can follow me on itch. Please don't follow me on Twitter. All I do is retweet garbage and like memes, and it's like, that's it.
That sounds like the Twitter we're following, though.
I don't know about that. Yeah, you can follow me on itch.
So your itch.io is it Niko the Neko?
Follow me there, and then my Twitter's there. But that's a be careful.
That's a be careful.
Be careful. I put warnings on my fucking bio. If you complain about the shit I like and like all the comments and all the retweets, I'll be like, hello.
Sweet,
Cool,
dude.
man. Yeah, thanks for coming on. And that's going to be it for today. You can find all of our links, everything in the description. Like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for stopping by and sponsoring us with your time.
For legal reasons, we should mention that all sponsors are not actually sponsoring us, and we only mention them for the sake of parody and memes. All related brands and intellectual properties are owned by the respective companies, and the content of this podcast does not reflect the views or values of those given companies. Seriously, please don't sue us. We have no monies.
I just realized what I would want. I want the ability to just not sleep.
Is that a thing?
Imagine how much more productivity you could get.
Yeah, you spend like how many fucking years do you spend sleeping? When
A third of
by
your
the
life.
time- Yeah,
So,
like
like-
a third of your life.
So
or something.
60 years would be like 20 years of your life you spent sleeping.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing about sleeping, is every single time you sleep, it's just a free trial of death. You get a sample of every single time you sleep. And you know what sucks about that free trial? It's freaking good. Like,
It's a good free trial.
you want to
goddamn.
like just make it permanent, and then you're like, you wake up and you're like, son of a gun. Like,
Dude, you know what? That makes me so much less terrified.